It's Wednesday. That means it's DeFi review day. Let's take a look at some DeFi charts that I like to keep my eye on closely on a weekly basis. Gonna start with a new one today. ENS, Ethereum name, service token, just airdropped mere hours ago. At least the listing. I think the airdrop was actually a couple days ago. This is Binance. This is on the 1 minute chart, so this analysis is gonna be stale by the time this video goes live anyway. But it's a good example of what you need to do if you're trading this actively. Obviously, you can't look at the daily or the hourly or even the 5 minute. There just isn't enough data. But you can still use the same principles that you use on higher time frames. You just have to realize stuff will go against you more times just because it is so volatile typically on the 1 minute. So it's easy to see things that don't end up playing out as you'd expect, basically. Even still, you can see shades of Adam and Eve here, VU, double bottom, triple bottom. You can see shades of head and shoulders, rounded bottom, rounded top. You don't want to see that if you're bullish up here. And again, it's 1 minute, so it's not going to matter anyway, but you are getting a bear cross as well. This is more of a academic exercise because it's not going to matter anyway, but going forward, you obviously want higher time frames, more candles, more data. Let this thing get claimed and sold by people. Something more interesting is probably the comparison to other stuff. I don't know if I've seen this anywhere yet talked about, but if we look at the fully diluted market cap, 7.5 billion currently. The active market cap, I guess, right now at the moment is 1.1. We don't know how many people have claimed that yet. I'm sure people are looking into those numbers, but if we compare that to like GoDaddy, for example, they're at what, 11.85 billion. Not saying that ENS is going to be worth as much as GoDaddy, but those comparisons will be made eventually. I don't know where this thing's going to end up or down past current price, but it's always interesting to compare those DeFi related stuff to non-DeFi stuff. If we look at the DeFi perp on FTX, it continues to look better than it's looked in months. We continue to have strong bullish continuation bias here. Mainly what I'm looking for is I don't want to see bear divs on anything. The expectation is up. I don't care the speed. If it's fast, if it's slow, if it retraces, as long as it's above the cloud, above the 200 EMA here, above all this volume, there's really nothing else to be worried about. There's no divs on volume just yet. One thing that is slowly getting more worrisome is this TKC clamp forming here, just like it did here, just like it did here. This is just showing a separation in fast and slow moving average. And basically it jumped up very quickly and then went sideways. And then you get the high probability of mean reversion. So you don't want things to stall. You don't want things to go straight up. Preferred is definitely this continuous grind higher, higher, higher. So to see this tumble to 12.5, which is basically a 20% retrace, even that wouldn't worry me. That's the buy area. If it goes beyond that, then that gets worrisome. So that's it. That's 5K away, basically, below 10. Below 10, and then I'm worried. Until then, let this thing do whatever it needs to do. But it is definitely extremely bullish, very close to new all-time highs here for the DeFi perp. And we'll start with the lending borrowing stuff. Maker survived the near-death experience of being below everything it needed to be above in order to be bullish. And it's forming a bull cross here, low time frame bear div, but ultimately this thing looks fine again compared to where it was. The same principles apply, for the DeFi perp that apply on every other chart I look at. If the EMAs look good, I am not worried about it. Let it do its thing. It flipped from nearly a strong sell to a buy when it crossed above that 200-day moving average. See, comp on the other hand, this is more neutral. Sell territory, just range. The expectation here, because it's in the range, because it's below the 200, is neutral to bearish. That's the expectation. But if this thing were to pop above the 200-day moving average like Maker did, then I'd get more bullish. Something else to watch for is this VPVR congestion at 490. So ultimately, I'm not bullish on comp until it's above 490. That's not to say it's a fine buy here if you are bullish on it. This is a range low-ish, right? So let's say this does break to 490 and then it breaks to 650 to 750. That's still a fine trade. It's just in the moment as we sit here, it is not as bullish as Maker looks on technicals. AAVE slowly grinding up, very similar to comp here. Comp is more neutral to me, whereas AAVE is bullish, but less bullish than Maker. It still has this VPVR congestion up until 410-ish. So once this is above 410, I'm much more confident that this thing can reach basically all-time high retest. Again, that's not to say this isn't a fine buy in this area in this moment. It's just more risk or more reward. I mean, that's just basic trading 101. It's just less clear that this is going to be clean bullish continuation. You could also argue some sort of mangled W double bottom or Adam and Eve, or you could even argue a macro ascending triangle here with a horizontal around 410. So that looks fine to me as well. SNX looks more neutral to bearish on the comp side of things. It looks closer to comp, but again, this could easily form an ascending triangle with a horizontal resistance at around 13. Has a decent amount of VPVR resistance on the way up to 20, but as the others start to curl up, SNX comp will likely curl up as well. AAVE will curl up. None of these are necessarily going to take a dive by themselves. Uni as well, starting to curl up for the DEX side of things. We saw a bunch of centralized exchange tokens moving up over the past few days, end of last week. Now we're seeing Uni curl up along with the ENS airdrop. We're starting to see ZRX, I'll talk about that in a second, curl up for no particular reason. So I really like where this sits. This to me is as pre-breakout as you're going to get with resistance at 30. If this thing is above 30, it's game on. It's very quickly likely all-time high retest. Ultimately, I like 60 to 70 within the month for Uni. I'm certainly trading it as such on personal accounts. We have it in the Enzyme portfolio as well. And this has been above the EMAs the entire time. And there's no VPVR congestion after 30, so I really like that as a level to watch. Sushi is more neutral bullish territory, still more bullish than comp, more bullish than AAVE, more bullish than SNX, but still pre-breakout, right? This could still be stuck in this range for a good long while. Ultimately, though, again, this could be an ascending triangle with a neckline around 15, past 16, and then I think it's easily headed to 30 to 40 area towards the end of the year. So all these are still pre-breakout. They're still worth buying in my eyes. They're still primed for a move to the upside. Curve was an early mover in that it broke its local high already. It still looks fine to me for additional upside. I still like 5 to 7 as far as the next move up, and ultimately probably 10 this cycle. So it's still a 2x from here. Trend metrics look fine. There's no volume resistance, no bear divs, nothing. Still looks fine to me. Bell also pre-breakout, more on the neutral side of things because it's still below the 200-day moving average there. But again, it's got that W double bottom something, right? Just going back to the ENS chart too, right? Like you see this on any time frame on any chart, right? You don't want to see this if you're bullish, and you want to see this if you're bullish, right? So that's what we're seeing on the Bell chart. It's super basic trading 101 stuff here, and it's getting above this VPVR congestion, above this support. So I like Bell to 50, right? If it can break 30, I like it back in that 50 zone. 2x from here. Looks completely fine on technicals. BNT, much like Uni, is already moving up here with the bull cross over the past couple days. Slowly creeping up. So I like all-time high retest for BNT over the next couple weeks into 7 to 9 area. And if things get crazy, that 15 level. But here again, you can see that ascending triangle, W double bottom, whatever you want to call it, bullish bias there. That looks good to me. ZRX, more of a mess. You know, all these are a giant mess, to be honest. But EMA is a flip bullish, no bear div. This thing looks fine for continuation, local high retest. If things get crazy in the next few weeks, 3 to 5 is probably fine. But this is the time. Like this week is when you want to start positioning yourself. If you think something's going to happen, right? You don't want to be buying even up here because it looks good enough to me at these levels. It might even form another higher low, and I still think this is a fine place to get into all of these. Not trading advice, but just telling you, where my head's at here. 1 inch is a bit different than everything else in that it already had its mega explosive move to the all-time high retest, basically. It's still curling up, still looks fine on MAs, but if something like this already moved, the question you should ask yourself, and the question I proposed, is what are the odds that this thing's going to move again as explosive as it already has compared to anything else that hasn't moved as explosive as it has? So I reduced the position on Enzyme from 15% allocation to 5, I think it is now. So it's not to say this isn't still bullish. It's not going to still move. It's just a relative trade at this point. It just makes sense to rotate into something else. It not only already made its move, but couldn't hold on to any levels up there. So still looks fine, just looks less bullish potentially than everything else. Melon doesn't look like anything else either, and it's kind of at its support here. I think within the week, we'll know if whoever was TWAP buying or whatever is going to keep buying here. If that buyer is still in the market, you're going to see this thing hit another all-time high, most likely, as they're just buying some EMA or some support like they had been since, I don't know, July. This was very clearly a different coin since July, as some entity is just sort of buying, at least appears to be. Nobody talks about this coin chart. I don't see anybody talking about it. It doesn't get a lot of hype. So that leads me to believe there's some entity buying this up slowly over time. Not saying it's ever going to get mega bullish. That's what it looks like. Link as well, similar to Uni, similar to BNT, is slowly curling up. And I've said this for the past 3 weeks probably. I'll say it again. On the USD pair, this thing is going to be fine. On the BTC and ETH pair, it's going to run into some trouble. I like this thing to 70 to 90 this cycle. Basically the midline of the pitchfork, midline of the MA multiplier. This also has that ascending triangle, bullish bias, W double bottom, whatever you want to call it. As it gets back into this pitchfork, the likelihood that it retraces to that $90 level increases significantly. So it still looks fine, in the USD pair. It's just on the BTC and ETH pair, I don't think it's going to do as well. And lastly, let me just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Technique Capital on Enzyme.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance allocation here right now. CRO is our highest allocation, along with all the vaults I'm in on Yearn, Comp, and AAVE. A couple of people were asking me why certain things weren't being lent out. On the back end, I can see the yield percentages for anything on any given time. So I like to make sure that I get decent amounts of yield for stuff, because if, for example, I have something here that I could lend, but if it's below 3%, if it's 1%, right, there's no point in lending that out, because the fees, you don't make money back on fees going in and out of the vault. So there's really no point. And as far as adding new tokens to this, it's also limited to what we can trade on Enzyme at the moment. And we're working on adding more stuff continuously, or asking them to add more stuff. But I don't have access to everything, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And you can also see the trades I make in the trades tab down below. Sometimes it's through ZRX, sometimes it's Paraswap. Last night it was ZRX. There's this other yin and yang between when can I get the best liquidity for the sizes of these positions, because even though it's sub 100K positions, sometimes the slippage is 2% plus. And the other part of that is, when are the fees the lowest? I'm still paying $400 per swap here, and double that during the day. So in case you're wondering, why is he holding what he's holding when he's holding it? Why is he doing what he's doing? There's usually a reason. It's not as simple as going in there, clicking a button, and we're done. I kind of have to time this so that I'm not eating fees or eating slippage, just to give you some inside baseball as to what's going on the back end there. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.